Welcome back, movie enthusiasts, to another episode of Cinema Central. I'm your host, DJ Ace, and it is time to talk about Ford versus Ferrari, which came out on November 16th. I'll say that this year has been really good for historical films, and there are still a few more to see before the year is out, and I am loving it. But for now, it's time to talk about this movie. As a movie, I really enjoyed Ford vs. Ferrari. I thought the best parts were Matt Damon's and Christian Bale's performances and the chemistry between them. They did a really good job. I also really enjoyed the races. I can't even tell you the last time I felt that intense during a race movie. The cinematography in those sequences was fantastic. And finally, I loved the history. I loved learning about the Ford Motor Company, Shelby, in the 24-hour Le Mans race. I liked the competition of it all, and it was all tempered by some fun moments as well as sad moments throughout the movie. Those were my initial impressions. Now it's time for the spoilers. But again, we're in this funny situation because it's a historical film, so can we really call them spoilers? Comment below. It should go without saying that Christian Bale and Matt Damon carried this movie. They do a very good job, and again, the chemistry between the two of them is just fantastic. Damon, of course, plays Carroll Shelby, the owner of the Shelby Corporation, and Bale plays British driver Ken Miles. And I think it was fun seeing Bale play a British character as he himself is British. But even then, his accent was very accentuated. But they both had a lot of funny moments with each other and other characters, and they also had some dramatic moments, and I liked that they were both very different, but were both very much aligned with each other. Now, I'm a pretty big racing / car guy. I do like looking at cars. I appreciate cars. I'm not a gearhead by any means, but I do enjoy them. And I play a lot of racing games, and I knew what the 24-hour Le Mans race was and was very interested in this movie just on a racing level, but also on a history level because I also really enjoy history, and I like that this movie actually teaches you about these events. I didn't really know about the background of these car companies or really the history about these people and events, at least not in detail, which this movie delivers on. Of course, this does have one major drawback, which is that this is a long film, clocking in at almost 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is insane because the last review, which was Midway, the historically accurate World War II movie, clocked in at 20 minutes less. But personally, that isn't a huge issue for me because as long as the story is engaging and building up to something, it's perfectly fine with me. And of course, the event this movie was building up to was the final race at Le Mans. But there were a number of races that happened throughout the movie, and these races were for me the highlights of the film. They were so well done, like in the execution and the cinematography. I never knew you could make a race that intense. And the last race, again, was fantastic. It is worth mentioning that this film was directed by James Mangold, who famously directed Logan, as well as Walk the Line, 310 to Yuma, The Wolverine, and other films. So the guy knows how to do action as well as drama, and it shows in this film. I also really enjoyed the aesthetics in this film. From the cars to the setting, I felt they really recaptured the essence of the 1960s very well. And again, I love the cars, and some of these vehicles were very much eye candy for me. And obviously, the standout vehicle was the GT40 itself, which just looked fantastic. And going along with that, I think the sound design was pretty superb. Again, with just the racing sequences alone, but also the soundtrack was equally thrilling. The CG was used mostly for the crashes, but otherwise it looked pretty good. Now, if I'm going to be a little nitpicky about one thing, the movie kept laying it on about how drivers can die in these races. And before we get to that, real quick point, I really enjoyed how this movie brought home the point that racing, especially back then, was a dangerous sport, and even testing these cars and the whole process of making the cars was equally dangerous. I liked how the film highlighted that, but I digress. Back to what I was saying. The movie kept foreshadowing that something was going to happen to Ken Miles, and factually, Ken really does die testing a new car after being wrongly shorted at Le Mans. But they overemphasized like the burning alive in cars thing. But in reality, at least what I read was Miles, he rolled the car and he was ejected from it. But again, the end result was the same. I just felt they really overemphasized that this tragedy was going to happen and made you wonder like the whole time when it was going to happen, which ultimately distracts from the film. So that is my review of Ford versus Ferrari. Again, I really enjoyed it. I think it is a fantastic film that explored a topic that I don't think is widely known about and does it justice, and has two great performances to boot. That's all I have to say. Thanks for listening to Cinema Central. Catch me on the socials at Ace Cinema Central, and I'll see you on the next one.